It's January 9th, 2026. Just 6 days ago, everything changed. The image is burned into our minds. Nicolás Maduro, the man who ruled Venezuela with an iron fist for over a decade, sitting in a U.S. jail cell in New York. Operation Absolute Resolve, a lightning strike in the middle of the night. And just like that, the strong man is gone. But here's the reality we have to face. The king is in chains, but the kingdom is on fire. In Caracas, the lights are flickering. In the streets, there is a silence that feels heavy, a silence that usually comes before a storm. We've seen this movie before, haven't we? We saw it in 2003 in Baghdad. We saw it in 2011 in Tripoli. We celebrate the fall of the dictator, but we often forget to look at what comes next. Is Venezuela about to become the next Iraq? A land of endless insurgency, militias, and a state that simply stops working? Or could it be the next Poland, a miracle of recovery, a new European-style powerhouse in South America? Today, and we aren't just looking at history. We are looking at a roadmap, how to stop a collapse, and how to build a future. Segment 1. The Ghosts of the Desert. Think back to Muammar Gaddafi. For 40 years he was Libya. He didn't build institutions. He destroyed them. He made sure that without him, there was nothing. When he was dragged from that drainage pipe in 2011, the world cheered. But look at the cost. No police, no courts, no unified army, just 1,000 different militias with 1,000 different agendas. Libya didn't get freedom. It got a power vacuum. But power vacuum is such a cold, clinical term. In reality, it's a black hole. It sucks in everything around it. In 2003, when the statue of Saddam fell in Baghdad, everyone cheered. But look at what happened in the days that followed. Baghdad was looted. Museums were emptied. Government buildings were burned. Why? Because the people realized, for the first time in their lives, there was no one left to stop them. The fear was gone, but there was no respect to take its place. This is exactly what is happening in Caracas right now. January 2026. The secret police, the SEBIN, are melting away. The military officers are hiding in their homes, waiting to see if they'll be arrested. But here's the problem. Who is running the water treatment plants? Who is making sure the hospitals have oxygen? Who is stopping the gangs from taking over the neighborhoods? If the US tries to run Venezuela like an occupation, they are repeating the Bremer mistake of Iraq. Paul Bremer, the man the US sent to run Iraq in 2003, issued Order Number 2, disband the army. 400,000 men, trained to kill, suddenly unemployed and humiliated. They didn't go home and look for jobs at Starbucks. They joined the insurgency. They became the backbone of ISIS. Venezuela's military is huge, 150,000 active troops. If the US says, "You are all criminals, you are all fired," they are signing the death warrant of the Venezuelan state. We get a mafia state. We get the colectivos, those armed pro-government gangs, turning into an insurgency that never ends. We have to find a way to let the institution survive. Even as the dictator leaves, it's a tightrope, a dangerous one. But the lesson from Iraq and Libya is simple. Removing a dictator is easy. Replacing the plumbing of a country is the hardest thing in the world. Segment 2. The Lost Paradise. But to understand where we are going, we have to remember where we came from. Young people today look at Venezuela and see only ruins, but their grandparents remember something else. In 1970, Venezuela wasn't just stable. It was the richest country in Latin America. It was richer than Spain, richer than China. They called it Saudi Venezuela. While the rest of South America was suffering under military dictatorships, Venezuela was a democracy. The Concorde jet flew from Paris to Caracas. The middle class drove Fords and took vacations in Miami. It was the beacon of the South. So, how did the beacon go dark? It wasn't just socialism, it was the paradox of plenty. When you have that much oil, you stop making anything else. Why grow coffee when you can just buy it from Brazil? Why build cars when you can import them from Detroit? The oil became a narcotic, and when the price crashed, the addiction killed the patient. But here is the secret that nobody talks about. The new Venezuela cannot just be an oil pump. If we just turn the oil back on, we are just waiting for the next crash. The real wealth of Venezuela is still sitting there, untouched. Look at the map. To the south, the Arco Minero, the mining arc, gold, diamonds, bauxite, coltan, the blue gold, inside every smartphone on Earth. Right now, that wealth is being stolen by gangs and smuggled out in backpacks. If that industry is formalized, if it is taxed and regulated, it rivals the oil. Look at the coast, Los Roques, the Amazon, Angel Falls, the highest waterfall in the world. Tourism currently makes up less than 1% of Venezuela's economy. 1%. In a country that looks like paradise. Imagine a Venezuela that competes with Costa Rica for tourists instead of competing with Iran for sanctions. And finally, the greatest resource of all, the brains. 25,000 doctors left the country. Thousands of petroleum engineers are driving Ubers in Madrid and Houston. They are the hidden GDP. If the call goes out, if they see that the country is safe, they bring back something more valuable than dollars. They bring back the knowledge to rebuild. Segment 3. The Polish map. The recovery vision. So how do we unlock that wealth? Imagine it's 1989. Poland is bankrupt. Bread lines are miles long. The Communist Party has a total grip on power. But instead of a bloody purge, they did something radical. In 1989, Poland was the Venezuela of Europe. Inflation was at 600%. The stores were empty. The debt was unpayable. Everyone thought Poland was a lost cause. But they had something Iraq and Libya didn't have. They had solidarity, a movement that included everyone, from the shipyard workers to the intellectuals. And when the moment came, they didn't reach for their guns. They reached for a pen. The round table talks. Imagine that. The people who had been jailed by the communists, sitting across from the communists who jailed them. They made a deal. They said, "We won't kill you, and you won't burn the country down on your way out." They allowed the old elite to stay, but they changed the rules. And then came the shock. Leszek Balcerowicz, the finance minister, he didn't try to fix the old system. He replaced it. He made the currency real again. He stopped the government from printing money. It hurt. Millions of people saw their savings vanish. Unemployment spiked. There were protests. People were angry. But, and here is the key, the goal was clear. We are going to join Europe. We are going to become a normal country. The US and the EU saw that Poland was serious. And they poured in money. The Marshall Plan for the 90s. Billions of dollars to rebuild the roads, the factories, the schools. Venezuela has a massive advantage over 1989 Poland. Venezuela has the world's largest oil reserves. But, here's the catch. Oil is a curse as much as a blessing. In Iraq, oil became the prize that everyone fought over. In Poland, the prize was the law. Venezuelans need to realize that the oil isn't the solution. The oil is just the fuel. The engine has to be the institutions. If Venezuela tries to rebuild by just pumping more oil, they will fail. They have to rebuild the courts. They have to make sure a contract in Caracas is as solid as a contract in Warsaw. That is the only way the 7 million refugees come home. They won't come home for a deal. They will come home for a future. Venezuela is currently ranked last in the world for rule of law. Last. To become Poland, they have to fix the courts before they fix the oil. Segment 4. The Trump Doctrine in 2026. So, what does the US do now? As of this week, President Trump has said the US is in charge. He's calling it the Don Roe Doctrine. But he is not interested in nation building. He's interested in winning. And in his mind, winning means 3 things. 1. No more refugees at the border. 2. Cheaper oil for America. 3. Getting Russia and China out of our backyard. But here is where the Iraq trap gets him. If he pushes too hard, if he tries to take the oil, he triggers the very thing he hates, instability. If Venezuela collapses into a civil war, the refugee crisis won't stop. It will triple. If the oil fields are being bombed by insurgents, the oil won't be cheap. It will be gone. And running a country from Mar-a-Lago is a dangerous game. Here is what the US policy needs to look like, politically, economically, and socially. Politically, the US has to resist the urge to handpick a puppet. Right now, they are talking to Delcy Rodriguez. She's the interim leader, a technocrat, someone they think they can do business with. But the people voted for the opposition in 2024. If Trump ignores the will of the Venezuelan voters to make a deal with the old regime, he loses legitimacy. The goal should be a national unity government, a bridge, not a new dictatorship with a friendlier face. Remember Poland. You have to talk to the people who have the keys to the buildings. The US should use Delcy to manage the transition, but they must keep their eye on the prize, real elections. If the US keeps the old regime in place just to get a good oil deal, they will lose the Venezuelan people. And once you lose the people, the insurgency is only a matter of time. Economically, Trump wants the oil. He's been clear about that. Fix up the oil, he says. But here's the mistake. If the US just takes the oil to pay back American companies, it looks like an occupation. Trump needs to be the deal maker, not the collector. Venezuela owes $150 billion. They are bankrupt. If the US banks and the bondholders try to sue Venezuela into the ground, the country will never recover. The oil money must be oil for peace. It has to go into the power grid, into the hospitals. If a Venezuelan mother can finally turn on the lights and feed her children, she won't care who the president is. But if the oil flows to Texas while Caracas stays dark, the insurgency begins. Socially, the US must offer an exit ramp, amnesty, not for the monsters, not for the torturers, but for the mid-level officers, the soldiers. They need to know that if they put down their guns, they have a place in the new Venezuela. In Iraq, we gave them nothing but a pink slip. In Venezuela, we must give them a future. Segment 5. The Venezuelan Burden. Reconciliation or Revenge. But this isn't just about Washington. It's about the millions of Venezuelans, both inside the country and the 7 million abroad. What should they do? Here is the hard truth. The next few years will be difficult. Even with Maduro gone, the Chavista system is deep in the soil. It's in the gangs, the mining networks, the corrupt courts. Finally, let's talk about the people, the millions who have suffered for 20 years. Imagine you are a Venezuelan father. Your children are hungry. Your parents died because the hospital had no power. And now, the man who did this to you is in a jail cell. You want blood. It's human. It's natural. You want to see every Chavista in the street punished. But it's a trap. If Venezuela turns the next few months into a witch hunt, if they start firing everyone from the local clinic to the police station because they supported the regime, they are choosing the Iraq path. They are creating a permanent underclass of people with nothing to lose. Venezuelans must choose reconciliation over revenge. It's a bitter pill to swallow. How do you live next to the person who reported you to the secret police? How do you work with the officer who blocked your food? Venezuelans have to look at South Africa. Look at Poland. Nelson Mandela came out of prison after 27 years. Did he tell his people to kill the ones who jailed them? No. He created the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. He said, we must speak the truth about what happened, but we must live together tomorrow. That is the hardest thing a human being can do, to forgive the person who hurt you, for the sake of your children's future. If you choose revenge, you choose a cycle of violence that lasts generations. If you choose truth and reconciliation, you choose a country. But that is the only way. If Venezuela becomes a place of revenge, it will never be a place of prosperity. And they must be patient. Poland didn't become rich in a week. It took a decade of hard, boring work, building institutions, writing laws, fighting corruption. The refugees in Miami, in Bogota, in Madrid, they are watching. They want to come home, but they won't come home to a civil war. They will come home when they see a country that is finally tired of fighting. The Make Venezuela Great Again promise sounds good, but making Venezuela function is the real task. Final summary. The moment of truth. The raid is over. The strongman is gone. Now comes the hard part. The adrenaline of the headlines will fade. The cameras will eventually leave. And when they do, only the reality will remain. Will the US be a partner or a predator? Will the Venezuelan leaders choose the round table of peace or the firing squad of revenge? Will the world see the next Poland, rising from the ashes, or the next Iraq? Burning in the sand, we are standing at hour zero. The old Venezuela is dead. The new Venezuela hasn't been born yet. It is a terrifying place to be. But it is also the only place where hope can truly survive. If they get this right, they don't just save a country. They prove that democracy can still win in the 21st century. If they get it wrong, the darkness won't just return, it will stay forever. The choice is theirs. History is watching, and history is a very tough grader.